Hello, welcome to the live stream for the book launch celebration for Confessions of a Teenage Band Geek by Courtney Brandt. Courtney is right here next to me, as you guys can see, and below me on the screen is Christine, who is the owner of the publishing company Muse Media LLC, which is the company that is publishing this book. So we are all here today to kind of celebrate the pre-launch of this book. The book is officially if you guys are watching this right now and you want to pre-order the book is linked in the description below. The pre-order link is right below this video in the description. So you can click on that and there is a link. It'll take you to Amazon. You can pre-order. The paperback order is not up yet, but if you want to pre-order for your e-reader, for your Kindle or your ebook reading device, or even to read on your phone, you can click pre-order there, and it is $3.99, so not very expensive. You can pre-order it there, and then it will download officially to your e-reader device on Tuesday, November 17th, which is the book's official release date. So we've got the pre-order there, but today we are going to be celebrating the launch of this book. We're going to be doing some Q&A. We are going to be talking a little bit about what the book is about, the choice to release it, everything behind that. What's fun is that I was the editor for the book. So we've got author Courtney right here, and then we've got Christine, the publisher, here, and then me, the editor. So you've got all the elements of the book process here, which is awesome. And we have RK Gold is here. Hey, nice to see you. Glad you're here. Great. So I guess to get started, we're going to kind of talk about the book, what it's about. We're going to celebrate some things about it, and then partway through, we will start taking some questions from the screen. I did a on my Patreon page, I did like an early submissions for people to ask questions early. So I will go through those questions first, and then people can feel free to ask questions in the chat and we will answer those as well. You can ask questions about any part of the process. You can ask Courtney author questions. You can ask me or Christine editing and publication questions, anything you want. We are here for it. So I guess to start off, Courtney, can you just tell us a little bit about your new book, Confessions of a Teenage Band Geek? What inspired you to write it in the first place? All of that good stuff.
Yeah, it was a project from a while ago, and it's always been a favorite of mine. And so publishing it and learning so much about publishing in the past 10, 15 years has just been an amazing experience. So when Christine said, hey, I'm looking for marching band books, I thought, you know what? I've never been able to connect with the audience in the way that I've wanted to. And so I reached out because I've known her from Halftime Magazine for quite some years. I think when she first got started, we met in Pasadena at the Rose Bowl for it was finals, I think, that year. And so it was just a conversation. It all felt very natural to revisit that. Bringing you guys on board as editors has only made the book so much better. The choice to kind of update it, because technology has changed quite a bit since 2011, 2010. And it just to kind of reconnect and move the book forward was really what this summer's been about, and this year.
Awesome. So so the book Confessions of a Teenage Band Geek follows the main character Julia, who is a drum set player. She's a rock band drummer. She is just cool, right? She lives in California, and then her family announces that she's moving to Georgia right before her junior year of high school. When she goes there, she's like, where am I going to find a new band? Turns out her school has a really impressive drum line, so she ends up joining the marching band and learns all about band geek culture. So I know you originally wrote the first iteration of this book back in 2011. What inspired the book What inspired the book in the first place? And what inspired you to write, and what inspired the character of Julia and all of that?
So if you think, I had already done a series, The Line, so I'd already kind of had a start in marching band novels, and knowing that I never thought there was a good fictional voice for kids that had been in the marching band program. So that's the kind of motivation had always been. There was like a really small group out there that was really receptive to my work. For Julia, I think, look, we've all had to do something new or move or put ourselves in a situation where we were the outsider and we're coming into something. And the other books I've written had always been very driven by people who knew marching band, who had been part of band, but what if somebody came in who didn't know that? What if somebody came in and didn't know all the traditions and didn't know all the rules, spoken and unspoken? And so just to kind of literally accidentally kind of audition, from there it just really took off. And again, it's just like, part of it is, I think, motivated by, I am from Georgia. I moved to Los Angeles. It was kind of a backwards move for her. So, like there is that little piece of it that comes from my own life. But no, Julia, I was involved. I started playing in band since I was in 6th grade. So I knew all of this. But I really liked the idea of somebody who is new to it and how do they explore that and what did that look like for them?
That's awesome. So what's really exciting about this book is that it's the first book put out by the books division of Muse Media, which is this publishing company. Now, this company, overall Muse Media, has been publishing the magazine, Halftime Magazine, for the past 13 years. So, Christine, I was wondering if you could talk a little bit about, with 13 years of experience in magazine publication, what inspired you to decide to take this company and say, let's branch into books and make that happen as well?
Sure. Thanks, Savvy. And Courtney, we're so excited that this is the first book for Muse Media LLC, because like you said, I've known you as long as I've had the business. We started this business in 2007, and we had the parent company name, Muse Media LLC. Never have used it much for anything because we had the DBA for Halftime Magazine. That was our first product, so to speak, of the business. But our original business plan and everything about the business was meant to be bigger. So our mission is to be a multimedia conglomerate for student performing arts, which would include marching bands, jazz bands, orchestras, theater, singing, everything regarding student performing arts, even drama. And recently I've even thought robotics. But with the economy being up and down, it's been a little bit hard to expand as much as we wanted to. We did have a magazine for a cappella and show choir for a couple of issues. It was called Sing, Sing, Sing. It actually was a lot of fun because we did get to interview very high profile individuals, such as Straight No Chaser, and one of the stars from Glee. It was immediately editorially accepted, but it was harder to get advertising for that kind of publication. So actually what inspired me right now to start the book division is you, Savvy.
Oh,
I've been inspired by watching you do your independent book releases and your YouTube channel grow, and just knowing you and talking to you over the past 6 years. I know you recently got your graduate degree in book publishing. So it really was a perfect time. Also, unfortunately, the pandemic has made things very difficult for the marching arts industry as a whole, with events being canceled. The marching arts industry is doing well in terms of coming up with creative ways to continue to perform and continue to march, but it hasn't helped the business of the marching arts. And so the timing kind of became perfect to create the book division now, with you, Savvy, as the project manager.
So it's really fun how all of us were kind of connected ahead of this, right? So I originally met Christine back in, I want to say 2014, maybe. I was a senior in college, and I was in the marching band at Northwestern, and Christine had been in the marching band at Northwestern 15 years before me. And there was a mentorship program.
I'm not old.
Well, at first in my brain when I saw it, because I've talked about this on a previous stream. I feel like a lot of people still do math as if the year is 2000. So they'll be like, oh, the 80s, that was 20 years ago. People will do that. So when I saw you graduated in 1997, I was like, oh, that was only a couple of years ago. She's just a couple of years older than me. And then I was like, wait, no, because it's 2014 right now. That I have to do math. So, yeah, so we got paired up in this marching band mentorship program to like help current college seniors find someone who was in their field. So I got paired up with Christine, and I ended up writing for Halftime Magazine. I've written for the magazine for the past 5 years now. I started in 2015. So that was cool. And then Courtney, I didn't know personally, but I had read some of your work because I was interested in this idea of like, oh, I love young adult books. Like that's the primary thing I read. And then you were writing these young adult books about kids in marching band and things like that. So I was reading them and enjoying them. And while we were in the process of publishing this book, I looked through my old Amazon wish list and I found that I had put the original version of Confessions of a Teenage Band Geek on the wish list like 5 years ago and just forgot to order it. And I'm like, that's amazing. So it was cool that we all ended up getting to work together on this particular project, which is just like a combination of all of these things that we all are really passionate about. So yeah, and I'm so glad we did start this books division because it's new, but it's exciting. And I think this really is the perfect like first book to kick it off. And yeah, it's going to be really great.
No, I'm looking forward to when you guys talk about other projects like these other manuscripts. I'm so curious to see, because there's so many different voices out there and so many different stories, and there's so many ways you could come at it. I mean, look, I'm first person, kind of, bubbly, upbeat, out there, outgoing. But, for that story, there's, 1,000 other stories that could be told about a season, about the size of the marching band, about which instrument you play, about leading or being in leadership positions. I just think it's just fascinating, and there will be tons of books to read.
What's fun, Courtney, is so you and I actually write very similarly. And I didn't know this until because my book 90s Kids is coming out through Muse Media in 2021. Mm-hmm. And in the process, while Christine was editing both of our books, she was like, I can't remember what happened in which one because they're similar. But in mine, it's like a sci-fi as well. So it's like, I've got a drumline girl who joins a rock band, but it's like, she's a drumline girl who time travels and joins an 80s punk girl rock band in 1989. So it's a little different. We're on the same wavelength a lot of the time.
Well, and you guys know I have been working on the sequel, and I'm like gonna hit 50,000 words this week. But I'm also I originally wrote Confessions, the first draft or the rough draft, in a medium where almost like Wattpad, where people could read it in installments. And so that's how I wrote, and people would give feedback and da-da-da-da-da. So I've dropped off from that for many years, and I've just written for myself. So I'm really curious to see. Look, you guys aren't going to see it for a little while because this is a rough draft at the moment, but early next year, just to kind of see what the feedback is and how other people maybe respond to Julia's story, what they want to see her do next. Because if you're kind of starting out, and I like that, and she's tapping into this whole bigger network, like, is she going to audition for WGI, or maybe she'll be interested in DCI? We get to kind of go along with her through that.
Yeah, so I'm super excited for this. I'll have more questions for you in a moment, but I am going to check out who's in the comments just to say hi and thank everyone who's here. So Moon Bunny Creative, that is Sage. So Sage is a poet and a wonderful author who runs the channel Moon Bunny Creative. Sage, I'm so glad you're here. There's a couple questions that I'll get to back when we circle around to chat questions. But what's fun is that my mom is here in the chat saying, congratulations, Courtney, my mom.
Thank you.
She also thinks this book sounds awesome. So thank you, Mom. I'm glad. I hope you enjoy it. I hope you read it and that you like it.
I appreciate everybody. It's congratulations, but it's like you need to see all these people on the screen because it's congratulations to everyone. Like, yes, I am the author. However, it's so great we do this as a group because people need to understand you don't just write a book and it's done. It takes multiple drafts and lots of great to get there.
Oh yeah, and that's why it's fun to see like people from different parts of the process, like all together getting to talk about it. I feel like that doesn't happen enough, and it's happening right now. So I'm happy about that. Yeah, we've got a couple other authors in the comments. Okay Weird is also an author, and it says congratulations as well.
Thank you.
And Kat Benson is cool. She is a dietitian who is looking into writing her first book. So I'm very glad that you are here. So yeah, I'm so glad for everyone who's here right now in the chat. Yeah, feel free to ask questions, and when we get to like a audience Q&A portion, I'll start pulling them up and we'll get into it. But I wanted to know, Courtney, so what was interesting, for some background for everyone, what was interesting about this book was that, so Courtney originally released this book. She self-published it and did an independent release back in 2011. And then you decided, like, when we started putting out the call for submissions, you were like, well, maybe we could do a re-release of this book, update it, revamp it, and we changed a lot of things and we made it a little different.
So much better. So much better.
So I guess my questions were, first, like, what inspired you to want to re-release a book that you'd previously released? And also, what was the process like for you in changing parts of it and all of that?
So a little behind the scenes stuff that some information you guys might not know. I know this is a good project. Like, it's always been my favorite. When I tell you it was so easy to write, it's like there's like 2 books that I've written, and I've written about 15. And this one was like, I just, I went through it. So there was something in it that has always, like, I've connected with. And then twice I've been approached to adapt this for screen. It never went anywhere, but I did take meetings that I think you guys even picked up on it when you were editing, that this reads cinematically. And that kind of comes from, I almost went and got my MFA in directing at USC, but I didn't. So I've always written in that way. And I think you guys were great to kind of ground it, because sometimes I'll just be like, well, in my head, I see all the scenes that are happening. And having an editor, I work with different editors for different projects, but how you guys approached it, and I think how we kind of, I would say, round robined it. I went in with no ego, because I think having written 15 books, there's no ego left, right? Like, when it goes to an editor, I know their job is to make that book better. So I didn't get like twitchy or angry or aggressive or anything. To me, it was, look, if it's right for the character, I might come back. But for the most part, you guys are seeing things that I don't see because I'm so close to it. Like, it's all going on up here in my head. So it was important to have, when we agreed to, let's go forward with this, for me, I think, even though I didn't say it, I hope I always approached it with the attitude for you guys that here it is, just do something, make it better, like make it the very best it can be. And I think for people who are maybe starting out, hire an editor if you're not working with one. If you want to be independent or self-published, that's fine, but do hire an editor and make it a professional one, because they're there to make your book so much better. Like, it will take it from that, where the previous draft might have been a good story, and Julie is a very fun character. Now it's this professional, very polished, great story that moves a lot. Like, it just is so much more seamless. And that was my hope in the beginning, and to see it realized has just been really special.
Yeah.
Courtney, you were a great writer to work with. So it was a lot of fun to edit your story, because, like you said, it was all very collaborative and easy to make improvements from all 3 ways. So it was really wonderful. And I actually did have a friend of mine who's a lawyer at Amazon. What is it? Amazon Studios.
Okay.
He already asked me jokingly if we have a treatment deal. So I will be pursuing that for real.
That's what I like to hear, though. No, I have always thought, a cute little a series or for feature, it could go either way. But to me, like, again, the marching arts, like you said, it's so dramatic anyway. Like, when you hear drum beats, or you hear brass, or you hear like it's all there to just be on film. And that's why I'm hopeful. Of course, we want to connect with readers, but we'd love to connect with a wider audience, and maybe just let people know, there's so many stereotypes of band geeks and that sort of thing. And I think Julie is very obviously she comes in with a chip on her shoulder, like, why am I gonna join this? Like, really, why am I gonna join this? And having her learn, I would hope that other people who read or potentially watch this would kind of have that same idea. Like, everybody works hard in the marching arts, and people show up, and they show up multiple times a week. And when you are maybe at a football game and you see a show, you might just think like, oh, that's fun and that looks nice, and not understand the hours and hours that have gone into making it look so polished.
Mm-hmm. So what I think is also really fun about this book is the whole romance element of it. Now, correct me if I'm wrong, I might have totally misinterpreted, but have all three of us been former marching band people who got married to other marching band people?
Mine's not specifically. Mine was my husband is a pole vaulter. He did play trumpet for a little while.
Okay.
But he did not march.
Oh, okay. Okay, yeah, because I was in I in high school marching band. That's where I got to know my husband. Well, we were like friends there, and that's how we started dating. And I was like, it's cool because I feel like a lot of people who have experience with like marching band romance, there's just a special connection there. So I love the romantic element of the story. And I was wondering if you could talk more about the inspirations behind what created that.
If I've written the Line series, which is a book of 4, and I'd kind of gotten out the first kind of author stuff where you write yourself and you write situations that have happened. So by the time I got to Confessions, it was way more fictional and developing an interest where, I think high school is like a fun time where Julia is, for those who don't know yet, she likes a crush. She loves to just fall in love and kind of like fall in love for a little bit. And I hope that readers see, I don't want to give too much away. Like, there are some love interests. Everyone will probably see it coming a mile away, but I like that she doesn't realize that kind of right away. And then she has to actively kind of make choices like, I'm going to fight for this relationship. But it's one of the best things to start a season. And I'm trying to think what my high school boyfriend was the valedictorian, but he wasn't in marching band. So I didn't, like, my senior year, I didn't see him that much because I was obviously marching all the time. But to see the little relationships that develop from band camp all the way through the end of the season, all the drama that goes on in between. Come on, like, it writes itself basically.
Yeah. Oh yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
We wrote an article on band marriages for Halftime Magazine. That was one of my favorite articles, actually. And yes, I did have it was not exactly the same marching band romance that I think Savvy had, because my husband was not in the Northwestern marching band, but he was his high school drum major. So we definitely had a connection related to the marching band, and he was in the concert band at Northwestern, and he was in his music fraternity, and I was in my music fraternity for women. And our biggest fight actually was about the marching band because he didn't want to join it, and I really wanted to encourage him to join it. So we ended up having a fight about that. But we do have an amazing connection related to the marching band.
Like, it doesn't always have to be romantic. I think that for those who don't know, I live overseas, so I live in Dubai. And when I go home, like, my short list of seeing people when I go to Atlanta, it usually includes my marching band friends. Like, they are still very important to me. And this is 20 years on. I had my 20-year reunion was 2 years ago. And just to like see what they've done, and now they have kids and the kids are doing music, and it's just, they will always be my friends because we were, so connected for those 4 years of high school. And so I think romantic, platonic, you can just be connected with people, like friends for life. Absolutely.
So I think you should give a shout out to your high school band.
The Brookwood Broncos in Gwinnett County in Sellville, Georgia. They changed the program a few years after I left. It's not as competitive as it was when I was there, but it is still led by a wonderful woman who was at UGA the same time that I was at Georgia. And she, I think, was one of the Redcoats drum majors, maybe, Laura. But anyway, no, it's funny because my mom is like a big fan of my work. Thanks, Mom. And through my, like, through my mom's group of friends, like their kids are in drumline, and I think it's directly related to me. There's like at least 3 kids that are like, she's like, oh, so and so's marching, and I'm like, oh, that's great. And she's like, they're on the drumline, and I'm like, that's great.
Yeah, that's great. I actually was always curious what your high school band was. So thanks for sharing that. But I think there's a definite connection to people in general who've done marching bands, whether you've done it through high school, college, drum corps, all the winter activities. Like there's an instant connection, and there's a lot of us. There's a lot of people who've been through a marching program, and instantly you can become best friends with a total stranger sitting next to you on the plane, for example, if you know that you have a marching arts connection.
Yeah, I find that so cool when I'll like make a video and then someone will be like, oh, you were in marching band, me too. And they'll say it, it'll be like, whoa, cool. Like I had no idea. And then like suddenly it's a big connection for us. And yeah. And I just love that. Like I still, because I knew that like even when I did marching band all through high school, all through college, and I knew I was never going to pursue music in any professional way. Like music was like the one thing I did as a hobby that I put effort into, because for the most part, I only put effort into things that I care about as a career. But this was one hobby I put effort into because I just loved it so much. And then it was so cool to get to see how that actually did pay off in a career kind of way, because like my first professional writing job I got was writing for Christine for Halftime magazine. So I'm like, whoa, I don't have to give up my connection to the marching band world. I can continue it as my job as a writer to write about this. And now I got to edit Courtney's book, which was about this. And I'm like, I get to stay in this world forever, even though I pursued, writing and not music. So y'all who love music, just keep it, follow your passion. Even if you never become a professional musician, you could become a professional, something else that is related to music. There you go.
Yeah.
Combining my passion and my profession was definitely my goal when I started this company.
Yeah. That's why I love working for Halftime magazine. I'm so excited that we're doing these books that have music and performing arts angles, and especially books with marching band angles are getting me like, I'm loving this. It's so great. Yeah.
No, we haven't really touched on, I mean, look, it's 2020, and as Christine mentioned, not everyone got to march this season. And so I think the 3 of us were also very cognizant of releasing a book that was not like, look, nothing can replace a season. And for the seniors and for the class of 2021, like genuinely my heart goes out to them. But releasing this book, it kind of, we are dovetailing into what would have been BOA finals today. Yes. And to kind of have that moment to say like, this is a little fictional marching band world you can go into. And we know that 2020 has turned out how no one planned, but for, people who are looking for maybe like a Christmas gift or something to just mark the season or the season that would have been, it feels very special to me that we chose this time specifically to say, we know what should be happening right now. There should be a lot of awards going out and people who have worked, since August or before. So just to kind of release at this time was also something that I'm really proud of, that we could kind of give this little moment maybe for people who are missing their own season.
Yeah, and that's what I love that about it, that a lot of people mention, especially like when I listen to people who make booktube videos and people who talk about their reading habits on YouTube, a lot of people talk about how their favorite part of reading is the escapism and the idea that you can mentally transport yourself into a new world. And I love that about it as well. And that's, I think, with this book, that's kind of what we can do right now, because I know when I've been reading it, like, I miss going to football games, getting season tickets, and being in the stands and watching the marching band that I used to be a part of. I miss that. I miss so much about what the world was like before we had to shut everything down. So reading this book, I was like, when I was editing it, I'm like, oh man, I feel like I'm back in the marching band world again. And it was just such a good feeling. That's what I loved about editing it, is like reading it through, being like, oh yeah, I remembered that. So I think it really is a good example of being able to escape into that mindset of what it's like in that world, especially at a time when we can't do that. So yeah, parents out there, if you have a kid in marching band, Christmas gift.
or anybody who's thinking about it, or anybody who's done it before. I think it's just a nice little, it's meant to be just a happy book that is just, we're all fans. It's going to come across very clearly that, this is the very marching band is the best, basically. And I think to see a character go from like, what's this about? I don't understand it, to the end of the season. I won't give anything away, but to come to a different understanding about what marching band is, I think is fun to see.
Definitely. Let's see. So, Okay Weird says, I was weird. I was like a marching band groupie. My friends were in it and I wasn't.
I knew somebody like that. They were like friends of ours, and they usually ended up, I don't know if you guys had a role called like a band manager. We were 250, so we were a lot of people. So there is essentially like, we just found spaces for people that didn't even play instruments. We'd be like, okay, you're hanging out all the time anyway. Good, we love it. Why don't you be in charge of this part? Maybe it's managing the movement of like props or costumes or whatever it is. Like I like that the marching arts are so inclusive, and I think that in most programs, maybe not the top tier, but in many programs, even if all you can do is like bang a cowbell, right? Or whatever it is, there's going to be a place for you. And I don't know in other kind of high school programs that are out there if it's always so inclusive. Like there are obviously, if you're in sports, you have to try out, but in most marching programs, you'll find a place. We'll get you there, as long as you can kind of do the steps and show up and be at practice and commit to that, there's a place for you.
What's nice, I feel like, in high school is people kind of learn together, because some people have middle school marching band programs. My school didn't. I know a lot of schools didn't. So it's like a lot of times when you get to high school, everyone learns it together. Whereas like if you got to high school football, you probably played football since you were like a small baby, so everybody's kind of, but it's like in this case, it's something we're all learning it together, and we're all like very, passionate about perfecting this together. And I always thought that element of it just brought everything together as such a cohesive unit.
Yeah. No, when you're a freshman, you look up to those seniors, and then by the time you're a senior, it's just the whole cyclical nature of it. Even when I was approaching, I've changed the covers now, but the first cover of the line, which is a little outdated, but when I went to do it, it was actually a photographer from my drumline, I was an alumni, they were still on it, and it's my home field that's actually on the cover.
That's cool.
Important. Yeah, it was important to me, and I think that you can find talent in different places, but you can share that talent as well, obviously from upperclassmen down to freshmen.
Awesome.
My husband's college roommate was a total band groupie. He actually knew all of our cheers, and he knew some of our fake cheers, like the ones where we make fun of other bands, because that totally does happen. He knew all of those songs and all of those cheers as well, which nice. So I always laugh. And he ended up writing an article for Halftime Magazine called "Confessions of a Band Groupie." That is still on our website too.
I also love the title of this book, Confessions of a Teenage Band Geek. I think that's such a catchy title. Because you see a lot of like confessions of titles, and I think this one is like, I feel like when you hear confessions of, you're like, oh, this book is going to be interesting. It's going to be dramatic. And then it grabs your attention. And then once you hear the whole title, it's like, oh yeah, I want that. At least from my perspective, I like this title a lot.
It was always that title. It was never, some projects, it's kind of a shifting or moving target, but with my young adult stuff, it's been pretty much, although now I'm like, the sequel, we're going to have to talk offline, but I'm trying to decide if we just do a 2 on the end of it, or if it's more reflective of the content that we will be discussing at a later date. But no, the title was just always, I don't know if, it's always been the title. And I never had it working under a different title.
I want to see if we can pull up the cover. I know the cover is behind us on the stream here, but I want to pull up the cover because this cover is so cute. And I just want to, before we go into like Q&A stuff, I just want to like gush about how cute this cover is. I'm so excited about this cover, y'all. Where is it?
Well, I like the connection too. We kept it, or I'll say we, but I'm part of the family. We kept it in the family. And so Eric, who has done a number of illustrations for Halftime, I thought that was really special to connect with him, because he's done illustrations for other, or he's a former marching band alumni, so he also gets it. If you were going to maybe a digital artist who didn't know what tenors were, or kind of didn't, understand that kind of concept, it would take a little more explanation maybe. But I think he understood it right from the beginning, that if, we want to tweak this uniform, or we want to do this, or the school colors are really important, he really just got that immediately. And I think that, not every artist maybe would have come in with his knowledge of the activity.
Let's see, here we go. There's the cover. Oh, well, even if the cover's behind it too, but it won't let me show it all at once. I don't know why that is. But anyway, so this is the new cover that we got. Wait, no, that's the wrong one. Wait, no, this is the right one. We got the right cover. This is the cover. Yes, This is the cover. Okay, so this is the cover of the book. And yes, this art is done by Eric Evanson, who has done lots of art for marching band related activities and promotions and things like that. And Christine's known him for a while, which is awesome. And his work is amazing. So this is our cover. I love the stadium lights in the background. We've got them on the field. We got, here's Julia, our main character. And then, here's another question for you, because I love the character of Denny. This is Denny right here. In his football uniform. So I love the idea of someone who is both on the football team and in the marching band at the same time, because I feel like that is it's a conflict in that, like, now you have to manage your schedule in a whole new way, but it's also, you get to, like, I feel like you get to be a part of two really amazing programs, right?
I think it came from, so I was pretty active on Tumblr, like circa when I was writing this book, so maybe 2011 to kind of 2014. Mm-hmm. And I saw a picture of somebody in the football uniform, but either playing an instrument. And I was like, oh my God, my brain was already like, I have to know the story behind this. So I think it was literally like, I saw an image of somebody who was dressed out for one activity, but doing another. And I was like, in my mind, I'm like, what is their life like? Like, how many practices did they go to? Like, how does this work? So incorporating Denny's kind of decisions that he's kind of been challenged with his whole time at Willow Creek, which is their high school. It was just interesting to kind of bring that moment forward. Like, literally one image became a whole story or a backstory for him. So, like, inspiration comes in weird places. So it can sometimes just be a song lyric or a picture, or if your brain is like receptive to it, you could just in that moment be like, oh, I got to do something with that. Like, that's interesting.
Yeah, definitely. And yeah, I related to his struggle. Like, obviously I was not on the football team, but I got that whole thing with, like, I was the person who was constantly doing every single activity I could possibly fit into the schedule at one time. I remember when I applied to college, I ran out of room on the Common App because it only allowed you to list up to 12 extracurriculars. And I was like, stop, I have more than 12. So that was me. I was that kid. So when I'm seeing Denny trying to juggle all of this, I'm like, I get it, man. I get it. And I'm glad that we had some of that understanding. It's because we also have that parallel with Julia, who's like, she's a drumline girl and she's also playing in a rock band and wanting to get gigs. So it's like, we've got I like that your stories tend to focus on very
overachievers,
very like teenagers who are very involved. They do a lot of things and they have a lot of passions and they are going for it.
I think it's because, like, even for me, like, when I introduce myself to people, they're like, what do you do? And I'm like, well, I'm an author. Also, I have a podcast. Also, I'm a food writer. Also, it just becomes, I think that, even in high school, you should be allowed and supported to do, the things that you're interested in, because you never know where they're going to go. But even kind of extrapolating that into the real world, there's no rule that says you can't do multiple things or things that you're interested in. I've been very fortunate in the many projects I'm interested in. It's just kind of about, can you schedule it all? Can your brain commit to doing it?
I think that's important too, because when I look at like my own career, if people ask, what do you do for a living? Like, that's a great question. I mean, I'm an author and I'm a business owner. And I guess as a business owner, I'm an author, illustrator, and toy creator. And then I'm a music journalist. I am an editor for this publishing company. So it's like, I've got a bunch of different things. I'm a YouTuber now too, I guess. So people ask like, oh, what do you do? Like a lot of things. And there's nothing wrong with that. Yeah. I think it gives you a lot of different experiences too, that especially as a writer, I feel like as a writer, it's helpful to do as many different things as possible, because you get so many different experiences, and then you have so much more like firsthand knowledge that you can include.
Yeah, and I think like for me, I used to work in higher education up until 2016, and then we moved from Abu Dhabi to Dubai, which is like saying I moved about an hour down the road. It's not like a massive move, but the intent was I was going to focus on writing, and then I started to realize that I kind of max out at about 4 hours of fiction writing a day. My best time, and it's different for everyone, but I'm like an 8 to 12. That's the sweet spot. That's when I'm going to get the good work done. And after that, I was like, well, now I have like a whole like rest of my day. And that's where all these other projects came from. That food writing is a different, it's like, it works a different muscle for me. So it's not fiction writing, but I can do this other thing. And then the podcast came, kind of after that. And there's some other projects that I'm kind of looking at right now as well. But writing, if you can write 8 hours a day, like good for you. I kind of tap at like 1,000 to 1,200 words a day. And I know that about myself. I've been writing every day basically since I was 20 something. So
awesome.
It feels weird when I don't write in a day. I don't know about you. If there's certain skills or activities that in some of the things that you do that you just kind of want to do them every day. But when I'm writing a book, I definitely want to commit like 6 days a week. So.
Oh yeah. Well, I'm one of those people that procrastinates on a project by working on another project. Like I have two modes where I'm like, I'm either asleep or I'm working. And then people, or like, I guess then sometimes it'll be like, oh, do I want to play this video game? Like, I guess kind of, but also like I could either be asleep or working right now. So it's like my favorite way to relax is just to stare at the ceiling and do nothing because it's like I'm either all the way on or I'm all the way off. At least that's how it feels a lot of the time. So for me, it'll be like, oh, I have to do all these novel revisions. And it's like, well, I also have to edit this video. I feel more like editing the video, so I'll edit the video. Or it'll be like, oh, I have to do all these things. Well, I feel more like doing this. And what's nice about having too many things to do is even when you put one of the things off, you're always being productive.
Yep. 100%. And like, I know right now I've slacked on my podcast, but that's because I really want to finish Confessions too.
Yeah.
And it's like, it's my driver right now. So everything is kind of just, it's kind of, especially as I get closer to finishing the rough draft, it's just kind of soaking up all the creative energy to just get that done. But 2020's been weird. This will be my 4th book. It's out, which is really, I used to be a book a year and done, but I've published 3 and this on Tuesday will be the 4th. And then I've written 2. I've written 2 books. Like usually I write 1 book a year, but this year I'll have written 2. So it's bananas to me that, I don't know, if you're sat in front of a computer because you're kind of stuck at home, there's lots of things you can do. It just so turns out that I like to write a lot.
Yeah, I think I'm in the same place as you where I've released 3 books in 2020 so far. The 3rd one I released was last Saturday, actually. It was my new dog book, Love of Seeing Your Dog. So I released 3 books this year, and they're actually all different. One was a YA novel, one was a nonfiction book about how to start your own business, and one was a picture book about rescue dogs. And so each one was different, which was fun. But yeah, 2020 has been a very productive year for book releases and book writing. And like, I'm doing NaNoWriMo and writing a novel right now and all that. Are you doing the sequel during NaNoWriMo stuff?
No, I started it pretty much when we picked up from, I want to say the second draft in September. Whenever I submitted that to you guys is when I started the sequel. So in my usual life, and we can get into more writing questions later, but I tend to write a rough draft in 4 to 6 months. That's about how long it takes me, usually on the kind of other end of that. But in this case, it'll be a much tighter, both the books I wrote this year will be a much tighter timeline. So it'll be closer to 3 months if I start in September, and I'll finish by the end of November. So, and look, for anybody who's interested in writing, there's different genres. So in young adult, and it doesn't mean I'm writing 100,000 words. And in this particular genre, contemporary YA, it could be 50 to 70, right? So I'm not like out there doing, a Harry Potter sized book. I'm doing a little bit shorter, but I'm still proud of it. I mean, like sometimes I'm like, wow, like what if every year was like this year?
Yeah. I mean, when I write a novel or a novel-length book, they're usually in the 50-ish thousand word range. I don't usually write the really long ones. It's usually the 50 to 60,000, but I always think that's a good length. I don't mind reading a shorter book. And I think this book is the perfect length, honestly. I think it
reads fast. If there's any comment about any of my books, they do read super fast. And it's funny because the other young adult book I published in October, and the word count of this are like within 100. It's like crazy how they're both like right at 68, 69,000. And when I was doing the drafts, like I could just see that this just happens to be, I think, where my kind of best writing is. And even the book I released in January, I think was very similar, that when I get to 65, 70, that's when the book's done. But this rough draft, I think, will be a little short. I'll just go back and add some scenes in later.
A lot actually happens in this book, in the short amount of shortish amount of words that you're talking about. There's a lot of really fun and cute scenes and a lot of drama, a lot of different types of action in this book that occurs. So I think it's a perfect length. I think your writing there's a definite style of pace that puts you through, and sometimes it's a flashback that takes you there. But it's very visual and it's very easy to read through. So.
Yeah, I will say your books do read fast. I remember before I worked with you, back when I was just a fan, I had bought your book, Major Pain, and I read it. So my in-laws used to live in China, and I was taking my first international flight ever. I had never been outside the country. I was so scared to fly for 14 hours in the air to go to China. And so I read that book on the plane. And that's how I got through the plane ride. And it was very quick, and the pace was very it was like, oh wow, here we go. Like it flew by. Yeah. So
and I see that sometimes in right now, like any author, maybe Savvy, you're different than me, but I pretty obsessively check if your book's in the Kindle Select program, you can see who's reading and how many pages. And it's interesting to see sometimes, especially the steampunk trilogy I've done, for them to go into one, into the next. It's just it kind of goes. And then there'll be days where it's some days, somebody reads 7 pages and I'm like, but why did you stop at 7?
Yeah, that is interesting. I've only put a couple of my books in the Kindle Select program, but I'm going to follow that from now on because some of them are there. They're not all there though. No, my dog books, I don't do ebooks for. They're only print. So I don't know if I ever will do them as ebooks in the future, but I feel like I like to have a physical product, especially because I want to encourage people to buy a plushie to go with it. So it's
and also, I will say that has been a question. And another reason why I definitely was interested in working with small press is that formatting paperback is really painful and it can be expensive, and it can be, I've it's not my cup of tea. I don't have the patience for it. So knowing that people are always asking for hard copies, whereas I'm an expat, I don't like having books is just extra. I'm going to have to move it into another house one day. So I have everything on my Kindle, but like for my in-laws or for other people, they really want a paperback. And that we took, Christine especially, took so much time to make sure that the paperback is such a good reading experience. It's like massively a step up from whatever I had before. But to know how much time and care has gone into the paperback and it's available for people, I'm really proud that that's another outcome. Like not only is the story better, but we also have a great paperback to go with it.
Well, thanks, Courtney. I didn't realize that situation. So I am a print journalist through and through from my college days and even high school days. I've been working on magazines since high school. So I'm always dealing in print. So actually doing the paperback felt easier to me than looking at the ebook. Even like looking through an ebook and not really knowing how to edit this in terms of formatting and what's normal for an ebook versus what's not normal for an ebook. That definitely was a transition for me. Editing the paperback, I felt like, oh yeah, this is totally, my cup of tea. It was definitely easier to look at the paper version, so to speak, even though I wasn't reading it as a paperback. So that makes us a good partnership.
Yes, absolutely. Because I do not have the patience for paperback. But that is, again, that's the benefit of working with a small press and someone like yourself who has the background, who understands. It's only better for the reader, in my mind.
Yeah, page alignment is always a big deal for me. Like I'm aligning.
I didn't even see. I'm just like
the tops of the page, which you can't do as easily on ebook, and that really bothers me in a way that it's not perfectly aligned.
Yeah, I think we should, because I know Christine isn't going to be able to be here the whole time. So while she's here, I think we should talk about kind of the small press element of this and how, I will say in the publishing world today, every type of publisher is like, none of it is clearly defined, right? So like obviously if you get a contract with, I don't know, like Penguin Random House, like a company like that, like that's a set business model that's existed for a long time versus like if you just like make an ebook file and upload it yourself and do a self-publishing, that's its own business model. Versus like now what I'm seeing with the internet and with books being sold online primarily, and now like even in the pandemic where most shopping is now being done online, is the concept of how book publishing works has so many variations now. And I like seeing the rise of the small press, where we have a company that's like what we're doing here, where it's like, this is not like a thing where it's like, if you got a contract and someone's like, oh, here's your $10,000 advance and all of that, like it's small, so we're not doing that. But it's also, a traditional publisher. So it's also like, we do all the formatting, we do all the cover design. It's a little different from the self-publishing process where an author would have to pay up front for those things. So I think I like the small press. I think it combines a lot of elements of small business stuff that I like. I guess from both of your perspectives, like what do you like about being a small press or working with a small press or those kind of things?
I'll let Christine go first just because I'm aware of the time.
Sure, it turns out that I can stay, so. My husband.
Oh, you can stay! Yay!
He will go pick up our daughter from her swim meet. So to answer your question, though, so I've been reading about book publishing. Actually, wanted to be a book publisher before I had my major in journalism. So I've been reading about book publishing since I was in high school. And I've edited several books prior to doing any of them professionally. I've edited several books for free for people in my career. And I really enjoy the book process and how plots come out and character development and all of those aspects of a novel, of a book. There was someone who asked a question earlier. I don't know, Savvy, if you can put it on the screen. It's from RK Gold. What are your primary key performance indicators?
Yeah, I didn't pull that one up yet because
so this is an interesting question.
This is an interesting question
Yeah. With our first book, but we've received several solicitations, and some of which we've actually had to turn down. What I am looking for as a small press is something like that I can connect with, but that is also something that I can understand and easily edit. So if it's too technical and I can't easily understand it, then it's not quite for us, but it might be a perfect fit for somebody else who has that technical expertise. I'm also looking for right now a connection to our existing audience, which is the marching arts, but the performing arts. We have a lot of connections in the marching arts industry and other types of performing arts industries. So that's what we're looking for in terms of the queries that come into us. How can we leverage our existing audience and kind of present these books to them? But we are looking at every format. One of the books that we have coming up is actually a coffee table book for the UC Bearcat bands, so University of Cincinnati Bearcat bands, and that is completely different than Courtney's novel or Savvy's novel coming up as well. But it is definitely something I can connect to because I live in Cincinnati and I know the writer, and I've visited the UC band several times. So it doesn't have to have a direct connection, like I don't have to directly know you as a writer, but I want to be able to connect to your background and to your book's purpose and mission and story. So that is kind of what I'm looking for when I'm receiving book solicitations.
To jump in as to why I'm working with a small press. So I did query agents a long time ago. And then I've decided to be a self-published author just because I feel like I'm, for a number of reasons, but it's right for me, and it's always been right for me. And I've the fans I have and the people I've connected with, there's so much ownership that I feel from that. Mm-hmm. When Christine asked for queries, I thought, do you know what? Again, the driver for me is that this is a good book and I want it to get to a bigger audience. And to do that, this small press kind of hybrid experience, if you will, really felt like the right thing. And there's not a lot of people that I would trust a book with because it's a lot of investment of time and energy that when you're writing a book and you're editing, and knowing her background with Halftime and the connections to various marching arts, but also just performance arts, it was the right thing. And then I have another author friend, and she's self-published, and we've been talking about this process quite a bit. And just to not have to carry the burden of doing everything on your own has been simply amazing. Savvy's really got so organized in the marketing of this, that we're all aligned to be a part of something. It literally is just like so much easier for me to like wake up, see, like I'm going to be a part of this. I'm so proud to be a part of this. I want to be a part of this. Is it perfect for all my future projects? Like the next book that I need to edit is a thriller that takes place at the Louvre, Abu Dhabi. So no, you're not the right publisher for that. I might hire you as an editor because I like how detailed you are. However, I think authors maybe have to approach it in what's right for you. And as Savvy pointed out, that there's so many different models now. It's just, you have to know the project. Is it right for the publisher? Is it right for you to be a part of them? In this case, yes. And I hope that you do have first look at the sequel, that we do continue this relationship, because I learned so much, and I'm proud to see. I can't wait to see where it goes.
I would also like to add that as a small press, we really want to work directly with our author, give our author a lot of input, involve them in the process. Even when we drafted our author contract, I told our lawyer that we wanted to be author friendly. We don't want the author to have to come back and make a ton of changes and be unhappy with the terms of the contract. So he said he can go anywhere from complete publisher friendly to complete author friendly. And I was like, I want this to be pretty author friendly, like in a way that we're giving them a fair package and we're able to work together. So I think that through this process, Courtney had a lot of opportunity to give feedback on the cover and about the editorial changes. I think she pretty much approved everything. There was like really no step in this and all the marketing. There's no step in this process that we did not involve her in. And I suppose that might be a negative for an author, but I think mostly for a small press and working with authors who are making transitions from independent to small press, it is a good hybrid of being involved and yet not having to pay for any of that up front is probably
the risk, as it were, is on you, but hopefully the benefits will then pay off, and I hope for all of us, not only because I'm proud of the project, but I think that I think this is going to connect with a lot of people and hopefully start a new kind of subgenre of like, hey, we really need to give, as I've been saying for 10 years, this community needs a voice and it needs to be more mainstream. Like, there's plenty of other books out there that fit into so many, like there could be vampire books and there can be other kinds of books. Why can't there be more marching books?
Well, hopefully this publisher is gonna make that happen. I love the small press element of it. And I was even like, as somebody who, I had self-published books. I had also, as you guys know, running Forever Home Friends, I had founded my own business that produces books. And then I had also like, I didn't really seriously go down the querying agents path. That was never really my thing because I'm such like an entrepreneur type of person. But I have had a lot of friends that I've talked to that had published with an agent and got a contract with a big publishing house and things like that. So what I loved about this was I was almost surprised how much we were able to blend the best elements of both of those worlds, because I was so used to hearing, authors get no say in their cover, they get no say in the formatting, they hand in their manuscript and they kind of have to consent to everything that changes and you lose creative control. I think from my perspective, I think we did a good job here balancing the best elements of the traditional publishing model, including that the author doesn't take a financial risk up front. But along with that, I don't feel like there was much having to concede creative control. It's like we had every time it was like, okay, we're going to make a new round of changes to the cover. Let's get Courtney on a call. Let's get Eric, our cover designer, on a call. Let's talk to everyone. Let's have a meeting. It was just such a collaborative process the entire way. And I was just happy with how collaborative we were able to make this process.
Yeah. And I hope that other authors, take it, I guess, as seriously that even if you're working with a small press, it's still my job to be professional, to meet timelines and to meet deadlines and to deliver, the best possible copy that I can. Because, when I went back and when I was editing in August, it was really interesting to go and like, because it'd been so long, I was ready to just cut and really try and make it better. And as far as I took it, you guys took it that much further. And so if there's any author out there that would be scared or timid or not sure, I think, working with a small press, there's so much more transparency. You can just communicate all the time. Like, hey, this, maybe I'll be a few days later, this is going to happen. Or, maybe you need to have a deeper conversation about the book or the project or whatever. And you wouldn't get that, like you said, in a traditional publisher. I think they'd be like, this is the project and this is how we see it going. And this is how we're going to market it. And this is, your name's on it. And that's, you should be very proud of that. However, I like all the little elements we had.
Yeah. And I like this comment that RK just put up where, so AG is one of our friends who reviews books on YouTube. And apparently, so he said similar things about working with indie publishers. Big houses need competition and authors need traditional pathways without agents as gatekeepers. And I agree with that 100%. So yeah, y'all, this Muse Media as a publishing house does not require you to have an agent to submit. In fact, I think currently all of our projects, nobody has an agent for. So, and I like that. And that's no shade to agents, right? So like if you're out there and you're an agent, like you do great work, keep doing your work. Agents have a lot of value for authors, especially if you are going for that bigger publishing house route. It is good to have someone who can help you negotiate those terms in your contract and things like that. That's definitely true. But yeah, I think that, having an agent shouldn't have to be the only way. If you want to be an author who works directly with your publisher and is more involved in that process from all of those pieces, I think that that's great. And I'm glad that small presses, are able to connect with readers more through online shopping and through social media and things like that, so that now we can have that additional option with, you don't have to have an agent to submit to us. We want to hear directly from authors. We want to hear directly what you want to submit. So I agree. I think, because that way it's like, you almost, it feels like you have to sell it 3 times. You have to sell it to the agent.
Yep.
Then the agent has to sell it to the publisher, and then the publisher has to sell it to the reader. So it's almost like, that's one thing I liked about self-publishing, was I just sell it to the reader. It's like I create something, the audience consumes something. As a business owner, that makes sense to me.
The stories that maybe, I think, if you see other indie people, look, you can write for genre, or you can write as a self-published author almost anything. It doesn't have to fit into specifically one genre. Like I'm thinking of a friend who I literally couldn't put her in a specific field because she blends a lot of different things together. I write a little more commercially, but she doesn't, and that's fine. Like, that's the story she wants to tell, and there's absolutely nothing wrong with that. And she might connect with a little bit smaller audience, but do you know what? She's connecting with an audience.
Yeah, it's like when I put out Sculpt Yourself, I was like, there's no way I'm going to query this at all to any publisher, because this book has no genre. Like, this is a speculative, soft sci-fi, but it isn't primarily sci-fi. It's primarily a feminist lesbian romance, but it's also a soft sci-fi speculative. So it's like, that's not a genre, but I don't care. So
yeah, and you found people who enjoy that, and
there's people who enjoyed reading it, and that's what matters to me. Exactly.
That's awesome.
So I'm going to go to some questions. I know that we've kind of addressed some questions already. I had put out on my Patreon that people could submit questions early, so I wanted to go to some of those questions that were submitted. And I think these are primarily going to be targeted at Courtney, although as Christine and I both write as well, we could also answer these things because we're all writers in a way, but we're primarily targeted at Courtney. So this one says, any advice for someone very new on maintaining consistency with writing when so many distractions are present right now?
Excellent question. It becomes a habit. So what I usually tell friends that are starting, okay, whether you have an idea or you don't. Savvy, do you know the drabble? Is that a familiar term to you?
The drabble? No, I don't know the drabble. Okay.
It is essentially writing 100 words. So you get 100 subjects, and then you write 100 words on each of those subjects. What it forces you to do is be creative, do word choice. You could just write dialogue. You can write scenes. You can write anything. But if you do it for 100 days straight, you will have the habit. And that's kind of one very easy place to start. But doing it just consistently, I guess I'm not as distracted because, Savvy, like you, I think I'm quite motivated and I want to see that end goal met. I have a rule in my house. This is going to sound probably pretentious. I don't watch reality TV. If I'm ever flipping on reality shows, I think I could be doing something better. And enhancing my own life, which is writing or doing something for my books or something like that. The exception, of course, is food shows, because I'm a food writer as well.
Right.
Top Chef, Master Chef, that's research for me. With distractions, you gotta just tune it out, whether it's finding a place in your home or a place in a cafe or a place with your family, without your family. Maybe it's a Spotify playlist that you write to, but don't be too hard on yourself, because it's a big accomplishment to write. But if you just give yourself 100 words a day, you'll get there, and then you'll start to do it, and then it'll just be a habit. I'm a big fan of that. And I actually came up with like 3 book ideas when I did the Drabbles like 10 years ago. And I can maybe send a list after this. But no, just be consistent and don't be too hard on yourself. But find, whether it's 500 words a day, for me, it's 1,000 words a day. Find your kind of sweet spot of where you want to write and where is achievable. It would be like if I wake up tomorrow and say, in a week, I want to lose 10 pounds. It's impossible. It's literally impossible. I can't do that. What I could do is work hard and probably lose 1 pound, right? So if you can't say, I'm going to write a book in a month, even though a lot of people are doing it, that's really intimidating if you've not done it before. Savvy, you're an author already. You know exactly where your kind of goals would be met and how your timing is. Like, you're used to that kind of, like, you're in a groove. If you've not done it before, though, saying you're going to write a book in a month or 2,000 words a day, that's insane unless you've done just a lot of outlining and you have this book in your head. So go easy on yourself, but be consistent. I think those are my top 2.
I will say, in terms of like, when there's elements of writing that are not specifically writing the words, I don't really watch reality TV, but I do watch like YouTube drama, which I know a lot of people will say is a waste of time, but I do it on, like, what I would suggest is, if you want to do this, get 2 computer monitors, because I have my small monitor here and my big monitor here. I put YouTube videos that I watch on my small monitor, and I watch them, and on my big monitor, I work on a thing that doesn't require me to be currently writing words. If I'm currently writing words, I do it to music. I don't do it to videos. But I'll put my videos on this monitor, and then on this monitor, if I'm working on, for example, illustrations for this book. When I was illustrating this book, I was illustrating on this, and I had videos going constantly on this. So I was able to still get all my like juicy drama that I wanted in my life, but I'm working on art on this monitor. So I could do, it's like, I don't have to be looking at it. I can look at this, and I don't have to be hearing anything in order to, you know, draw. I can listen to something else while I'm drawing. So I do that. Or if you're not an artist, but like you're an author and you want to work on like your author platform and social media and things like that, while I'm creating social media graphics on Canva, I still got my YouTube drama going over here and stuff. So if you want to still watch that reality TV, find the things that you can do it during, and then get a second monitor. That's my suggestion.
The second monitor is, I had one when I was in a traditional work environment. I definitely had the 2 monitor. Once you go to 2 monitors, you cannot go back.
You cannot go back. Now, whenever, like, I have, I got a hand-me-down laptop from my mother-in-law as a Christmas gift. She like had gotten a new laptop, and she's like, "You want my old one?" I was like, "Oh yeah, I need a laptop, thank you." So I have a laptop now, and it's like, I set my laptop up in my small business fulfillment center, which is my repurposed dining room. We don't eat in the dining room, so I made it a fulfillment center with all my boxes and my packaging supplies, and I hooked the laptop up in there, and I just use it for, like, you know, finding orders and things on the website that I'm fulfilling and things like that. But I cannot do what I do. Like, when I try to edit a video on the laptop, when I try to draw on the laptop, I'm like, oh God, no. I need my 2 monitors. I need my desktop set up with my keyboard. And never go back.
For this person, I think, please know that, like, the 2 rough drafts that I wrote this year, no one will ever read those except me. There is no way I'm going to send Savvy and Christine what I'm writing right now. And it's important, I think, to let yourself, like, have that space. Like, some people can write a perfect first draft, like, good for them. I've never been that person. To me, my rough draft right now is like, just, I'm exploring, like, are we going to go in this direction? Are we not going to go in this direction? Whatever. Then I will do a first draft that other people can read. But right now, it's a really safe space for me that I know, like, even if I'm writing, what did I write? I'm on like a track right now where I'm like, I don't know if this is going to work. You guys won't read that. By the time it gets to you, it will be an edited version.
Yeah.
And so if you're trying to be distracted, or again, who is Elizabeth Gilbert? She's got creative. She's the gal who did Eat, Pray, Love, but she did a really good series about being creative and tapping into creative energy. Just, like, don't be so hard on yourself, because it's a big thing to write a book, but you got to start. So every day that you're like, oh, I don't know, just start. Because, like me, again, everything I wrote this year, no one's going to read it. Like, literally the 2 rough drafts, no one will read those. No one's going to read that but me. And that's for a very specific reason, because they shouldn't be. It's not ready to be read. But I'm allowing myself that place to go, okay, you have to just get out these first 50 to 70,000 words. Then we take the red pen and we start to go through and we make it like a real story. But I think it's, don't be afraid to turn off the TV, or just turn on the background, or turn on music, and find your place that you can get work done.
Somehow, like that, I appreciate that reminder too, because, you know, I have 9 books out. and I somehow forget that every time I start writing a new one. Like, it's not that I like don't know it. It's like right now I'm doing NaNoWriMo. RK Gold, who's been in the comments, he and I are actually writing a novel together for NaNoWriMo. So we're co-writing it. And as I'm writing, like, we'll do a writing sprint time, and we're like, all right, we're gonna write 2,000 words today. Let's do it. And we'll write 2,000 words, and I'll be like, oh God, but I hated how this sounded, and I'll just start feeling bad about it. And I'm like, I don't know why I keep forgetting. Like, this is the first draft that we are writing quickly in 1 month. Like, why do I constantly worry about this, knowing that, like, for example, the book 90s Kids that we're putting out with this publisher I'm on the 4th, like, complete rewrite of the entire thing that I've been working on for since mid 2018. So it's like,
I've got that book, and it's with a friend now, and I love the idea. I hate my execution of it. And I'm just like, please, can somebody come along and make this better? Because I love the idea of it, but it's not a good book yet. It's not there.
So I have a lot of distractions, but I also have a few ideas as to how to be productive through distractions. I have 2 kids, and I used to have a dog. I have a cat. She's not that distracting, but the dog used to. And I lead Girl Scouts. I have 2 or 3 other volunteer positions. I used to coach robotics, which is like a full-time job as well. And I have 3 or 4 work projects going on all at the same time. So one of our magazines is for K through 12 instrumental educators. It's through Yamaha Corporation of America. Yamaha Support Ed is the name of the book. And they always have professional development pieces in that story that we edit. So one of the writers wrote that you should have goals, not just like weekly checklists or daily checklists, but 7 minutes, seven minute things that need to be accomplished in 7 minutes, 7 hours, and 7 days. So I used to do that. A lot of my things kind of kept getting pushed to 7 hours and 7 days. So I've adjusted that to just have my 7 days. So there's the short-term 7 days and the long-term 7 days, short-term, this is stuff that needs to get done this week, and then things that I have for longer term. But I keep that list for both business and personal. And my philosophy is that as long as progress is being made in either part of my life, business or personal, then any progress is good progress. And that's what I used to tell the kids that I coached in robotics too, because sometimes they really struggled they loved the robotics part, but sometimes they really struggled to do the writing and the presentations that we had to create. And I'm like, hey, if they wrote or researched like 2 sentences of material, at least we're making progress. So I would always say, good progress. And that's one of my philosophies, is that any progress is good progress. And then also, the benefit of working with people, like Courtney said, even if you hire an editor as an independent publisher, or if you do work as an independent writer, or if you're a small business or an independent, or if you're working with an independent publisher, it's good to know that other people are working sometimes when you're not. Like, I say that all the time with my small business. I do have a lot of contractors, writers, designers, and other people that I contract with. And even if I'm taking some personal time, like Monday was my son's birthday, I took half the day off. Nobody needs to know necessarily that I'm taking half the day off, but someone is making progress on this book or this website or this magazine story. So I kind of find good solace in that any progress is good progress. And even if it's not your own progress, someone is making progress in your business and in your project.
I think that's really important too, is that, sometimes it's like, oh man, I didn't make enough progress, and you're very hard on yourself. Although, I don't know, for me, I also do this thing where I'm like, I set goals, like I do kind of the opposite of Courtney. I set goals that are intentionally too big to accomplish, because that way they even though I don't accomplish it, I'm forced to try for a thing that's not possible. So it'll be like, I don't know, I might say like my goal was I wanted to release 4 books in 2020. I released 3 books in 2020, but if I hadn't made the goal to release 4, maybe I would have released 1 or nothing, you know? So it's like, I'll make the goals too big to accomplish sometimes, or sometimes I'll be like, I'm going to write all of these things at once. And maybe I don't, but it's like, I still progress on all of those things, or maybe I complete one of them or something. So I'll make goals that are impossible intentionally. And that sometimes it does. I would not, like with Courtney's weight loss example, I would not make impossible weight loss goals intentionally. That's not healthy. Don't do that. No. But when it comes to your work projects, I think it can be okay.
Writers are also procrastinators. That's part of our personality. I've worked with a lot of writers now, and that having the deadline is definitely important. Oh, yeah. So when you're writing yourself, like Courtney says, her goal is an X number of words per day. Having your own deadline of like, I'm going to have a rough draft done in 6 months really helps. So set yourself deadlines and, try to hit that, and then put sub-segments, smaller goals within the big deadline. Savvy, like we really project managed this book of Courtney's. We had a spreadsheet that kept changing. Here's our original dates. And then sometimes we always have our goal date and then the actual date in the spreadsheet, and who's responsible for doing what. So having a little bit of project management, as even for us creative types, is really important.
Yeah, I think the deadlines are absolutely necessary to have. Deadlines of, I'm going to get this done by this day, this done by this day. If you don't have a hard deadline for everything, it's very easy to get distracted and not move forward and things like that. But then if you don't meet the deadline, you got to make a new deadline. You can't spend time being like, oh no, I didn't meet the deadline, the whole world is going to end. It's like, okay, well, you didn't meet the deadline. Now what do you need to do instead? Maybe now tomorrow's the deadline if you're almost there, or maybe now next week is the deadline if that's not going to mess too much up. It's like, don't hit the deadline, you make a new deadline and you move forward.
Yeah.
So I'm going back to Patreon questions. We have this one that says, any general advice on becoming a better writer? I'm very self-conscious of my writing and background. I continue to cringe rereading my work 4 times or rely on copious programs to fix things for me. How do I become a better and more confident writer?
You just have to keep doing it. I don't like looking back. It's funny to me to see how drastically, like I would think I had only improved incrementally. And then when I go back and see, like, as an example, this book is a good one, but the other book I released this year, I wrote in 2007. So 2007 to 2020 is a really long time. Yes. And I can be just like, whoa, in all this time that I've been writing, like it is a skill and you have your 10,000 hours or whatever it is. Jealousy is the thief of progress or something like that. But like I'll compare myself to other authors or other whatever and just be like, man, that's a really good book. Why can't I write like that? Like, just write for yourself, So if some people, like Confessions of a Teenage Band Geek, is not a Pulitzer novel, it is not a Booker Prize novel, but I can still be really proud of it and my writing in it, because I can stand back and say, this is a book that's great, and this is the book that I wanted to write. So again, I'm going to just keep saying, don't be so hard on yourself. You'll find your audience. And I'll admit, I can't remember where it came up, but I started writing fan fiction. Do you know why I started writing fan fiction? Because it's a world that already exists that I'm comfortable with. So when I first started writing in like 2002, 2003, I won't tell you what it was, but it's still kind of active, and I still contribute to this. Like year on year, I will still write some piece now and then. And I think that maybe if you're not comfortable creating your own world yet, that it's okay to tap into a world that already exists with characters that already exist. Because I think while fandom can be stressful and crazy and a bunch of stuff, it can also be really supportive. So if you're worried about putting original stuff out there, maybe take a step back and say, is there a show I really like? Is there something else that I really like where there already exists a place where I can write, you know, a different version of basically anything. I mean, fan fiction is, name it, it will be completely different. And that's what I love so much about it. And I have met some absolute, like, I've read works where I'm like, how are you not published? Because this is free stuff you're giving to everyone. So yeah, I think that would be my advice, that if you're kind of just getting in your own head too much, and it's too much to kind of, you're like stressing out about original fiction, maybe just give yourself like a week and just go do a fun fan fiction project and feel safe there, and just kind of have fun with those characters that you already know, and then maybe come back to the original fiction, because I've done that the whole time. And sometimes it's a fun break to go away from my original characters and just be like, oh, these characters I've known for 20 years, and I can just write them so easily because somebody else created them and they're like my friends, and I can just drop into their little world anytime I want. Yeah, that's my advice.
I think, yeah, so fan fiction is fun because there's no stakes to it. So like, I started writing fan fiction like a couple months ago when my friends started doing this like fan fiction and writing live stream. And I was like, I'm going to write some fan fiction because I'm one of those people, I've talked about this on my streams before, I'm one of those people who is like a purist about the show Degrassi, like the teen drama. I'm like, yeah. You start watching it Degrassi Junior High in 1987, and then you go through it in order. Some people are like, no, I should start just watching The Next Generation in the middle. Like, no, start it. And I start, you know, it's like if you watch it in order, it hits you in the right way, but also you start to notice the continuity errors and the things that are wrong. It's like, I guess you can't run a show for 30 years. But anyway, that's why I started writing fan fiction, because I was like, I need to write a future version of Degrassi where they fix all the relationships that they got wrong that were supposed to be together. And so I'm like, I'm going to fix all of Degrassi in my fan fiction. So that's why I started writing fan fiction. And it can be very fun because there are no stakes. Nobody, like, you're not going to get paid for this. Like, you're just writing it for fun. So yeah, fan fiction is a fun way to rediscover the joy of like coming up with ideas.
And I find people are really supportive. So even if you just put out, you know, a small little 5,000 word, 10,000 word, whatever it is, and you do that in 3 little installments, like there are no rules. So if you just want to write a one shot of 500 words and that's how you feel today, fantastic. You'll connect with people. And if you know, want to write a massive, like there are people out there writing novel length works for different films or television shows or books or comic books. Like there literally is, I think, nothing too small to find out there that you can connect with, or that don't be timid. Don't think like I have to go and write a novel. Like, no, you could just write 500 words and that's it. And some people will like it. And that's usually just how it goes. Like people are really supportive there.
Awesome. I think when it comes to being a confident writer, like, I wish I had better advice. I've always been a confident person, and that's like not a good thing. It's hard to like, I feel like admitting that makes me look bad, but like, it's just the truth. Like, I had to become a less confident writer because when I was in like high school, I would just like write pretentious things all the time. So, but I think it's all about getting feedback. And I love now that we have like this whole beta reader idea where you want to get, you know, for those who don't know, beta reading is the idea that like you want to find someone who is not an editor, who is not, you know, part of the publishing process. You want to find someone who just likes to read, who will like simulate the process of like, if I were a reader reading this book and not looking for errors, not trying to find, like if I were just reading this for fun, what would my review be? What would I like? What might jump out at me as something that should have been fixed or something? And I love that process. So I think getting feedback from beta readers can help your confidence because you'll learn where your strengths are and you'll learn to kind of lean into those strengths more. And then you'll learn which parts you need to work on. And then you'll spend more time working on those. And I think that helps the process a lot.
I agree.
Also, I think journal writing will help you grow to be a more confident writer. Just, you know, you're writing it for yourself. I used to journal a lot in the past. And to be coachable. So like Savvy is saying, getting some readers and getting their advice and trying not to take anything too personally. I like to say that everybody needs an editor. So even though I edit a ton of work, I also ask people to read my work. And so be coachable, be willing to take ideas from other people to make your work better.
I agree.
Yeah, I think, well, Christine was the first like professional editor I had when I started working for Halftime like 5 years ago. And like I said, at that point, I was not used to working with an editor professionally. So I would turn in my writing and she would return it to me with all these things need to be fixed. And I would go, oh no, she hates me. She's going to fire me. I did a terrible job. Oh no. And I would freak out. And now Tyler, my husband, he'll like make fun of me and he'll be like, Savvy, remember all those times that you thought Christine was going to fire you and now you're still working together years later doing even more than before. Maybe she liked your work all along. I'm like, I know, I just freaked out.
Oh, I love writers who are coachable. In fact, I asked Savvy to coach a writer that we mutually know, or she introduced me to this writer for the magazine, and she didn't have a journalism background, which I'm fine with, and it can teach people how to write journalistically. But there was a point where I said, Savvy, do you mind reading her work first before it comes to me? Because I think like Savvy and I have worked for many years together, so she knows the style of Halftime magazine now. I barely have to edit her work. In fact, I don't remember having to edit it that much in the past.
Maybe not. I think it was just my first experience working with an editor. So whenever I got criticism, I was suddenly like, oh no, I messed the whole thing up. And it was like, and I had to learn that it was like, no, this is just like, sometimes you need to fix things. And like, I knew that because I had been writing before, but I hadn't been writing for a job before. So I think that's why it was scary.
Even when I send my other works to, I've been working with the same editor for about 3 years. I will tell you, I have to be in a really specific frame of mind to open that document because it is immediately personal, especially in a novel.
Oh yeah.
And I've like hired her. I know she's going to make this better, but I have to sit there and like kind of like amp myself up to get into that draft because it's not easy when you've written 70,000 words or whatever. And then it's like red marks and stuff like that. No one wants to see that. So I just like, it does take a special day where I'm like, okay, today's the day. I'm in the right place to receive this and to be open to it because if you're in a bad mood and even if you've hired them, you could just get really frustrated with a project and it shouldn't be like that. Like it's always going to cut your ego 100%. There's just no way around it. Then you get over it and then you just move on. But even after all the books I've written, it's still getting a draft back and seeing errors is still like, you're like, how did I miss that? Or why isn't this right? And you just kind of beat yourself up a little.
Hopefully you find an editor that'll tell you the good things first.
This is why I love Mandy, is who I work with for my other projects. And she's always so good at like softening the blow. Like she'll just be like, did you think about this? And she'll always point out stuff that makes her laugh, which makes me happy because she's like, oh, this is a really good scene, or this is a really good ending to this chapter, or whatever it is. So working with her has been very good.
Yeah. Yeah, I think that's important. You got to point out the good and the bad, and every piece of writing is going to have strengths and weaknesses, and you just got to identify them and figure out how to fix them. And that's what being an editor is all about. Yeah. All right. So I know that I've gotten through those questions. If anyone who's watching has questions for any of us about writing, about this book, about editing, about publishing, feel free to ask them. Otherwise, I we'll give a little more time if anyone else wants to ask questions. Otherwise, we will probably get wrapping up pretty soon. But I'm really glad that for everyone who came here to this, and I'm really glad Christine was able to be here too on the stream because I really appreciate getting to hear your perspective as, the publisher, the owner of the business, and all of that. Yeah,
I was going to say actually too that a good writer will make the writer feel like it's 100% completely still their work.
Yeah, I've noticed that
I've had writers tell me, it doesn't feel like you changed anything at all, even though I know I've changed a lot. But that's the best. That's better than having a writer say, I didn't write that at all. So.
And Christine is super good at that because when she first started coaching me in how to in like the editing style and the editor role for this and that kind of thing, she like walked me through like my recent article I'd given for halftime, and I had read it I read it in the magazine, and I'm like, yep, that's my article. And then Christine, we got on the phone and had a meeting, and she walked me through each of the changes she made, and I'm like, whoa, you made a ton of changes, and I didn't even notice. I was just like, that's my article. And that's why I'm like, that is a good editor where you can fix the things, or you can even reorganize something, or even rearrange a sentence, but the writer will still read it and be like, yep, that's what I wrote.
That's the importance of a good editor or a strong editor. I think that I have worked with some in the past that weren't at the same level that Christine, Savvy, and then Mandy, who I work with, are at. And now I know the difference. If anyone is out there and you're looking for an independent editor, obviously word of mouth is fantastic, and use that first. Otherwise, you should be able to send any professional editor 3 pages and have them send it back to you. And that should be a free of charge kind of thing, because you need to see if you're going to invest in, I think it's like, I don't know, 0.01 cents per word or per page or something. So it can be a significant investment. So when I sent Mandy, for example, my first 3 pages, and it came back, and I was like, yes, this is somebody who is picking up, grammatical or whatever it is. I think that, a good editor, once you find them, and then I've given her extra work because I know other authors, and it's important to retain your own voice, but then make it better.
Yeah, I've done freelance editing jobs for a variety of clients as well. And like some of it's so different, but I feel like that helps a lot. Like one of the recurring editing jobs I have is for a financial firm that when they put out blog posts and articles, they send them to me to edit before they put them out. And that's like the type of editing feels so different because I'm like reading stuff that's like kind of above what I understand. But it's also been a place where like I've learned like, oh, here's where I should ask questions. And then the knowledge passes over because like, when I've been working on this book, I know with Christine, there's been a whole focus on like how sentences start and like not wanting to start sentences with like, there are these things, like not wanting to start sentences like there are or it is, because those sentences just, they don't start as interesting.
No, it's lazy writing, this one.
Yeah, I do it too. I think it's just a natural way to write. I just said that right now. I was like, it's a natural way to write. Well, that's not really, kind of. But anyway, that's kind of how people talk, right? So, and then now I'm like, it's now when I'm reading these finance articles, I'm looking even more. I'm like, oh, there's one of those sentences here. I can rearrange it and make it a little more active. And it's, I think all the knowledge kind of crosses over in that way.
Yeah, no, my food writing, and I've done PR or press release and copywriting as well. And it is such a different style, but it's like a muscle. Like you're working out something different, and vocabulary is different, and just how many even adjectives I would use would be different. So sometimes it makes me happy to just go back to fiction and do it on my own, or build my own little world instead of working for a brand or seeing how a brand puts their things together.
Savvy, I love your mom. She has
my mom is so sweet. My mom has been finding our stream very informative, especially when we were talking about the small press world and the editing process and things like that. She also says, no question, just a comment, you are 3 amazing women. Thank you, Mom. You are amazing as well. Joseph Hassan is here saying this is very interesting. Thank you. I just want to address real quick. Yes, did you get my order? I saw you ordered one of my books. Yes, you'll get an email notification when it ships out. It might be a couple days though, but yes, I got it. Thank you for letting me know. And then Eddie Lane is here saying congrats as well. Thank you so much. Yeah, I'm grateful for everyone who's here, who's asked questions, who's had comments. I'm really excited about this book. I'm really excited about it. I think it's going to be really, really good.
Yeah. Then the next one will be how to get reviews and how to, that's the hardest part. Once you put it out there, people are going to have opinions, and even I'm a reader, I read every day. And I have opinions too about other authors' work. So I would encourage everyone, We've put the pre-order in, but let us know how you feel and be honest, because it's better for all readers, and it could also potentially help direct, future kind of installments. But we definitely want to hear what you have to say.
Yeah, so definitely check out the pre-order link is in the description below. If you want to pre-order this book, you can pre-order it there. The link to order the paperback is not live yet. That just takes a little longer to get up. But right now you can pre-order the ebook, and then it will automatically download to your Kindle or Nook or whatever reading device you have. Even if it's an app on your phone, you can. It'll download there on Tuesday, the 17th. So yeah, go ahead and pre-order. I'll make sure we'll kind of blast out there on social media when the wait, hold up. I'm gonna put up all our social media handles on the screen real quick. So where we go? Here we go.
Type.
Okay, here we go. So you guys are going to want to follow Muse Media LLC. That is our Instagram page. We have been posting daily updates. We've had a lot of fun artwork of the book and a lot of fun graphics about it that we've been posting, posts introducing everyone to the main characters and things like that. And we will be having updates as we get closer to the release date. We are going to be updating there, once the paperback is live to order. So follow us there on Instagram at Muse Media LLC. That is, that's where we're at. And also, yeah, check out the link in the description below to the pre-order. I think that's about everything. Are there any, closing or final things you guys want to leave everyone with for this stream? I know that we have the stream live right now. People might, will probably watch it on replay later. So they'll get some more people watching it later. And so if anyone's watching this on the replay and not on the live stream, feel free to leave a comment below or leave a question below or that kind of thing. Go ahead and, ask us questions, leave comments, whatever you want. But yeah, is there anything final you guys want to leave everyone with before we head out?
I can't believe it's here. I feel like I've been waiting for this day since August, and I'm like, November, and now it's here. Yeah. And I'm so excited to have more people, new people, read this book and connect with it. And yes, I'm just it's like Christmas for me on November 17th. Honestly, I'm so proud of it. And just please let us know what you think.
Thank you so much to everybody who joined us and to those who are watching the recording afterward. The Muse Media LLC is also our Facebook handle, so Instagram or Facebook with this handle. Thank you so much, Courtney. It was such a pleasure to work with you, and I'm looking forward to multiple sequels. Hopefully,
I'm so excited there's going to be a sequel.
And it's so great to know you all these years, and then also now to work with you. And Savvy, I always have fun working with you. We have a blast. So thanks to everybody
for working with both of you on this project. And Courtney, I'm so excited that there's going to be a sequel to this. And so everyone, if you read the book and enjoy it, get excited because there's more installments coming. Yeah. We're gonna keep moving forward with this. Well, thank you both for all of your great work on this project, and thank you to everyone who's watched this stream. We are going to head out now, but feel free to leave further comments on the replay. But for me, I'm Savvy. This is Savvy Writes Books. I will see you guys all again on Monday when I will have a new video going up about my business owner day in the life vlog as I prepare my new packaging and my holiday promotions for my own small business. So I'll see you guys there. But until then, y'all, don't forget to support small businesses. Don't forget to check out new authors and support books and all of that. And I will see y'all later. Bye, friends.